Hello again, this is UML Operator. Hello and welcome to part 2. There's going to be 3 parts for solution approach. It's a complex subject. I'm going to try to simplify it as much as possible. Solution approach is part of a greater series on model-driven anything that we're producing as we're moving forward. In our last episode, we brought in our building blocks that we're going to use for scope analysis. Make sure that you're doing baselining a couple of times a day, before you go on a lunch break, and by the end of the day, do another one. You can always remove middle or mid baselines if you don't want to keep them. That's totally up to you. Today, we're going to bring in requirements, and we're going to start scope analysis, aligning to the building blocks that we brought in as part of our scope analysis and solution analysis leading to design. So let's get started. So as stated, we brought in our building blocks from a reusable asset service so that we could build from existing architecture. Then what we did was we copied these global unique IDs, these elements, into our own architecture that we're using to do scope analysis. Now, what I typically do is requirements management. I want to use the same naming conventions the team used. You can see here functional requirements inside here. We've got business requirements, functional requirements, non-functional requirements. We have user, architectural requirements, regulatory, and security. This is in the requirements management namespace. So down here in scope analysis or scope to solution, you can see I have functional requirements, and then I append analysis to make sure that I have a unique reference to requirements analysis. This is requirements engineering. This is solution analysis. So in here, I have business requirements analysis, functional requirements analysis, and in non-functional requirements analysis, I have user requirements analysis, architecture requirements analysis, regulatory requirements analysis, and security requirements analysis. So it replicates the naming convention used in requirements management so that I can ensure that all the stakeholders understand the difference between what we're doing in requirements engineering versus what we're doing in solution engineering, solution approach, solution architecture. You can certainly start in any package that you want, but we're going to start with business requirements. We're going to add a class diagram. So UML structural class diagram in here, and we're going to double click in here. We're going to go to elements. We're going to turn everything off because the elements that we bring in, we do not need to show the inside of the elements. We're going to go to connectors. We don't need to see relationships. We just want to bring in the building blocks. Let's hit OK, double click always, and then make sure that your settings took and we're ready to go. So we go up to solution analysis. We go to building blocks. We're going to use chat all the way down to the last application, drag and drop it in, select for all, and there we go. These are clean elements, all right? The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take all of these elements. We're going to right click in here, and this is totally up to you, right? I like to enable custom draw view. I like nice, clean elements when we're coming through here. Now this has a stereo tag value. Let's go ahead and take a look. Actually has a stereotype. I'm going to turn that off. We did that in a previous demonstration. I don't need that. There we go. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to size these as small as possible so that they're legible. I'm going to right click on the one I just sized, and I'm going to same height and width, all of them. Then I can come in, layout, I can left justify, and then I can space them evenly. Let's see here, make it a little wider, a little tighter, because I want as much space as I can get. Right click on the one I just sized, same height and width, and then we'll go ahead and space these evenly down, something like that. Left justify. Now we're ready to get started. This is kind of going to be a template we're going to use for all the packages. So go ahead and save. And next we're going to bring in our business requirements because that's the area that we're focused on. Let's go ahead and minimize our building blocks, roll up to our requirements. We're going to go to business requirements. We have 5 that are here and we're going to bring these in. All right. So all 5 of them, drag and drop them over here, select for all, brings them all in. Let's go up here to layout, left justify and space them down. Right, let's move these over a little bit more here and bring up notes. And I'm going to put drag and drop notes window right to the right of the diagram space. That way I can read the notes for each one of the requirements as well as the building blocks, the architecture that we brought in. Now we're able to turn on traceability. This way while we're working, you can see that what we have in this diagram are the applications and the 5 requirements, all right? So when we're looking at the nouns and the verbs, and I highlight them, you don't have to do that. My mind just works this way. And I'm reading the scope. And of course, it could be much more detailed requirement in here. User stories, acceptance criteria, anything that has been added. And we're able to say, hey, in here, we need to expose selected knowledge articles to third party. So chat is going to realize this requirement. Now, the association doesn't show. Remember, we turned off connectors. If we turn them back on, now we can see the associations. We could go up here to layout, appearance and layout, set visibility. We could turn off everything except for realization. We want realization to show. And now it's turned off all the associations. And through the course of this analysis, we'll only see realization, which is basically saying that chat implements this requirement, right? And we would do that for each one of the building blocks and requirements that are relevant to the scope or requirements as we're moving through this analysis. Another way that I have shown you is to bring in a relationship matrix. We're going to go down to governance in the toolbox, and we're going to bring in a matrix specification. Just drag and drop the element in here, and we could give it the same name, business requirements, analysis. Yeah, I think I'll go do that, analysis, and then we double click it. And we can come in and we can select, hey, well, what package do you want? Well, we want requirements, function requirements, business requirements, and the type is requirement. So we're going to hit R, roll down, and find requirement down in this long list here. So you can see requirements and requirement. We want requirement, singular, as the type of element we want to filter. And then target is going to be our building block. So we go to solution, we go to building blocks. Here, we're only interested in class elements. So we roll down and we look for class elements that are in here, right? And then we want the applications to realize the source requirements. So destination is going to be target to source, just like that. And we're using realization as our relationship type. Let's go ahead and hit OK. Now when we double click and we open up this matrix, let's go ahead and just move. Well, I'll leave this here to the right. You can see that we've done chat realizes requirement 1. And in here, you could do, like for instance, e-commerce as the next application realizes, create, realizes requirement 1. Now I had everything selected, and what ended up happening is all of these got that associations. I'm going to select the ones that I don't want, and I'm going to delete the relationships, and that's how you fix that, right? And I can do that for each one of these until I have completed the scope analysis for these 5 business requirements. Now you can certainly say that e-commerce, if you select the column, highlights everything. And if you create a relationship just like I did, it would say that e-commerce is realizing or implementing all these requirements. You could certainly do bulk like that, but I only wanted to do the one. Let's go ahead and close the matrix. And the third way that I've shown you how to do this is using views. So you can right click in the white space of the diagram, switch view, switch to relation matrix view, and yes, save, and we're ready to go. I'm going to move notes. Let me leave it here and just make it smaller, something like that. That way, when I select any element, whether it's out of the target or the source, I get the notes. Now, the source is going to be I want to be the applications in this particular case. So I come up here, as I've shown you in previous video, on views, class. So I'm just seeing classes. And then for the target, I want to see requirements, right? So source to target, right? So this gets a little confusing for folks. It's up to you whether you want, hey, I want class elements across the top and I want requirements elements on the y-axis here to the left is what I meant to say. You could certainly do it that way. It's totally up to you. But I have a lot more applications that have requirements, so I want to utilize the space effectively. So I'm going to put class here in the y-axis on the left side. It just happens to be the source. And then here in this view, I want target, right? And I only want to see the items that are connected using realization. And I can limit to only connected elements, but then I don't see the elements that I want to do in my analysis, so I'm going to click that off. Now here I can go through and I can basically I can click on any element that's across the top, read the notes, any application, read whatever notes or intelligence was provided for these building blocks, and then I can use this for my analysis. So you have three different ways of doing this. I'm going to go back to the diagram view, and I'll leave it up to you what you believe is more productive. In this case, I like this view here, where my notes is to the right of the modeling environment. I can switch between properties, traceability, features, and other tooling as I'm doing solution approach and solution design. I like this best because I'm able to select an item very quickly, get the notes. I can very quickly add content to the realization or the connectors, whatever the connectors are. In this view, using the matrix, it's a little harder. I've got to double click on the element, or I can right click on it and locate it in the browser. And it takes many more clicks to get to the intelligence that's there. Same with the applications. I can right click, locate in browser, and it goes right to it. And I can read any notes that were provided with the building blocks that we brought in. There's so much you can do here to make your life more productive. For example, you go to requirements up here. We're focused on business requirements. You can bring in a hyperlink. We're going to bring in a hyperlink, not a cell. You could certainly bring in a cell. And you can see in notes, we'll shorten this a little bit. Here, like this. There we go. Make it a little wider, something like that. And then you can double click here, get to this. You can switch the view here to specification. And then what you can do is instead of notes being here, let's go back to our common layout. Here we go. And then you can take this view where we had notes and you could put it to the right or left or whatever's more productive for you. You can minimize the toolbox to give yourself some more space. And as you're selecting elements, let's just go down here. You can read the notes over here, or you can have traceability on, which I prefer, like this. And then you have specification view here. So you see that, well, requirement 1, requirement 1, requirement 2, requirement 2. You're able to deal with changing stereotypes. Let's just drag and drop stereotypes out. You've got status and difficulty. You can manage your requirement specification here while you're working on your solution specification over here. So there's so many different ways you can slice and dice. And of course, if you've got multiple monitors, you can essentially place this in another monitor and move windows around to allow you to have a larger workspace to do the things that you want to do. But in this case, I like having notes. Again, I'm going to take it back over here. As I'm selecting items, I'm able to very quickly get to the different views that I want. Eventually, your analysis model or diagram will start to look like this. We usually will move requirements into the center so that I can grab particular items, clearly focus on their associations or connectors with requirements. I can very quickly move into views that I want or need to use. Let me turn on limit to, and it sets everything up. Limits to the connectors. I can continue to write notes and analysis on each one of the items that are over here. That's why I like notes over here. When I'm looking at elements and I'm looking at the requirement right now, I can come over here with traceability and I can put traceability. Let's just put it somewhere in the middle right here. And I see that this is relevant to these applications that are here. And then I'll start making notes. I could make notes within the requirements. And again, this is a team decision on how much content that you want to put within the requirement elements, how much content that you want to put into the application elements. And there certainly is a lot more intelligence that needs to be added here to these elements that are in here that we're doing a solution analysis for. Let's go back to our diagram view that we have here. We continue to work through our analysis, making notes. You all learned about inspectors, so you can select elements and you can view or inspect elements this way as you're going forward. Lots of different ways to slice and dice and work your analysis as you progress. And then it's just rinse and repeat. So as I told you before, these are our applications. We've already got them set up. We go to layout, left justify these, then space them down just to clean it up a little bit. I'm going to hit save. So as we're going through our packages, so let me right click here, find the package over here in the browser. I'm going to move traceability back over here, and it's just rinse and repeat. So as we're going through these, we're just copying and pasting, inserting, not pasting as new, making sure you insert them to keep the intelligence, especially the GUID, all the same as you're going through all of your requirements that you're working during this analysis. So you can see we brought in these applications. We haven't done any relevance right now to these, but we're slowly getting there. All right. All right. So we're going to wrap up here. And in the next part, we're going to get into reporting. So different ways of slicing your intelligence. We're going to talk about collaboration as you're working as a team in delivering. So I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. And until then, happy modeling.